All right, it is 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting of the Facilities Committee to order so that I can get Jeff away from my pumpkin spice scented hands as quickly as possible. If we could get a roll call, please.
Wiggs,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Arez,
Here.
Crane, Bortato,
Here.
Hanauer Friedman, Vanich Theranot,
Here.
Lokshin.
Here. Have quorum. If I could get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Motion by Member Wilson, second by Member Wiggs. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Motion to approve the minutes of the January 6, 2026 facilities meeting. Motion by Member Aris, second by Member Vanich Theranot. Any discussion on the minutes? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Do we have any public input for tonight's meeting? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to board communications. Any communications for tonight's meeting? All right, we can move right ahead in the new business then. First up on the agenda is discussion and approval of ITB 2026, number to come, Champaign County Select Demolition for Champaign County, Illinois, 1701 East Main Street, Urbana, Old Nursing Home, with Carla from Bailey Edward. You can move the microphone down if you'd rather sit. And it's actually now it's green means go instead of red.
Great. It's been a while since I've been here. And I think this is the first time that I've actually got to present in the new space, so that's very exciting. Yes, so the first item is the select demolition for Champaign County. We did actually get a number for that, and it is actually I think it is 2025008. But we can work that out later. So basically, this is the plans and specifications. Looking for approval to put those in the plan rooms Monday for bid, and this is for the demolition of certain properties along, next to Ilias.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this project? I know we don't have the full paper in this packet because it's like 230 pages worth of content. But that is on the board website under the facilities. So if you have questions, want to review, I can give you a couple minutes here. Take a look. Member RS.
Honestly, my only question is the pre-bid meeting, is that something that anyone can attend or when? Or I guess I can see when and where, but is that something anyone can attend?
Anyone can attend. Typically, it's interested bidders.
Gotcha.
Can come and look at the property, and we walk them through the process. They are able to ask questions. We are not necessarily able to answer them. At the meeting, we send all of that out in an addendum, but yeah, I mean, anyone interested can come. It will be publicly posted.
Awesome. And I guess if I can, my only other question was the bidding process. I can see how it's done in the document, but all in all, is that decided then and there? Like who gets the bid?
No, so the bid process, that is just the pre-bid. It opens up the area for bidders to come look at the facility and understand the project a little bit more. The actual bids will be collected on February the 24th. I believe right now I've got it at 4 o'clock, but that was really just a placeholder. If we need to edit that we can. And then We collect them at 4 o'clock, we close the bids, and then we read them publicly afterward.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all.
Member Wilson.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about historic treatment philosophy. And, well, just tell me about it. So are you worried as much about historic treatment on the inside versus the outside?
No, not on this particular project, no. There are, I believe there's 5 pieces the county has identified that they would like to retain out of the structure. It's primarily just to understand that there is a sensitive nature to the facility, and that, I mean, we're not going to document anything, but there may be additional permits that need to be pulled due to its age.
I would just add that nothing inside the facility is salvageable.
Nothing is.
No.
It's like it's covered in mold. It's just, we couldn't do anything with anything inside. We've identified some of the more decorative pieces on the external side of the building that we want to keep and preserve, but inside, there's just no choice.
Okay. And so mold and it's not asbestos remediation, right? Beyond that, or?
I think we're beyond the asbestos, but it will be the mold, and there may be some lead-based paint, I believe, in the facility. I think in our documents, we had just told the contractor to assume that all surfaces were lead-based paint, because it's just too hazardous to get in there and test for those materials anymore.
And then I know most rehabs, rebuilds, refurbishing always go flawless without any issues.
Right, yep.
So, but what do you think are some of the anticipated or issues we'll run into, because there's always this discovery aspect?
On this particular project, I could foresee maybe some structural stability issues as they begin to take the building down. That's just because some of it is already separating. There's a stairwell that's separating from a section of the building, that as they start to do the demolition, other things may self-demolish in an unanticipated manner. So it's always a hazard, right? You just don't know what you're getting into. So some of those things, it'll be good to get an experienced demolition crew in there and take a look at that and see what they're going to have to do.
So final one. So I see that the client is here. The customer, the judge.
Oh, no, this is for the
Nursing home.
old nursing home. This is the one that I was saying, it's on the web. There's 200 and something pages on the website with the full information on this one, but we didn't print out the 200 and something pages for our packets.
Perfect, thanks. All right, this should be fun.
Yes.
Hey, Carla, are we limiting at the pre-bid meeting where people are going to be in the building?
Oh, your mic, turned off. There we go.
Decided I was done. I don't anticipate taking anyone into the building.
Okay.
I really don't. I've been in the building, it was about a year ago. I think we spent, 10, 15 minutes in there, and that was it. We needed to get back out.
Yeah,
so.
okay, I just wanted, if you felt that was necessary, I wanted to talk more about that because that concerns me a lot, so.
Sure. No, I don't anticipate anyone going in.
Member Wiggs. Oh, I'm going to let Daniel go first since he hasn't spoken yet.
Hey, I just wanted to clarify, I think it was page 221 in our packet, and it was highlighted that this is going to be a LEED certified, is it removal?
Oh, no, that, we'll take that out. What page did you say that was on?
221? Lost it.
We'll find it.
We do have, Mary has a flash drive if we want to pull the document up on the larger screen. Yeah, let's do that.
I didn't know if that was what was referenced on our handout here, being a green energy rebate.
No,
Okay, sorry, I was just a little bit curious about what that was.
Member Wilson, did you want to ask your question while we wait on pulling up that document, or?
Thank you. So I guess just a question. So a lot of buildings that have been abandoned or set aside or not watched, there's individuals come in, start stealing pipe and copper and stuff like that. I'm assuming we don't have that challenge with this building.
I have not seen any of that evidence. Again, it's probably been 9 months to a year since I was in that building. That building's been abandoned for at least 15, maybe longer. I haven't seen any recent evidence of that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, Chris and I were in it a couple of months ago, and I don't even think the raccoons want to be in it anymore at this point, honestly. And it'll be fenced while it's being demoed, so I think we should be. And honestly, I would be more worried about the ghosts if you tried to go in there and steal some pipe. So
I don't know if we could probably hit the magnifying glass and search for LEED up there, LEED. What, the document and the packet number might be different, but LEED would be, uh-huh. I guess we'll have to keep, yeah. Next. There.
Oh, yeah. It was supposed to be removed. I apologize for that.
So,
Yes, yeah. Well, and I don't know how you lead certified
a moldy
demolition.
building, no.
Yes. It's, yeah.
Yes. Daniel, your microphone. Okay. Member Hanover Friedman.
Can somebody remind me what the cost is for this? Or the estimated cost?
Sure, we have an estimated cost. Total with the modifications at Ilias to close off the connection that occurs between the two buildings is about $1.4 million. Last summer, we were looking at just the demolition without Ilias, and it was right around $900,000 to $1 million just for the removal of that. And then we do have an alternate for some removal of some outbuildings, the garages and the boiler building that's just to the south of that, just in case. I want to try and get an awardable project. So,
and this is the one that we're splitting the cost with Highway because they're going to build their cold storage once the land is cleared.
Member Furtado.
Do we anticipate, once the building is gone, any other sort of environmental mediation that would have to happen on the site before they could build their cold storage? Or do we think there's any ground contamination or anything like that?
I don't anticipate any. We did not test for ground contamination,
Okay.
no.
For full disclosure, we have some tanks that we're not 100% sure if they exist that we're investigating that might be in the ground.
Correct.
Any other questions, concerns on this one? Member Vanich, they're not.
Are we worried about asbestos in this building at all?
I believe it's all gone, but we will identify, we'll tell the contractor that if they run across any of that, to stop and to notify us immediately.
Very thorough bid packet for a very thorough project. Thank you. If there's nothing else, then I would take a motion to approve the release of this RFP moved by member Aris, second by Wiggs. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to the Champaign County Courtroom Feasibility Report review and discussion, also with Carla Smalley from Bailey Edward.
Great. This is a conceptualization study looking at dividing courtroom F, the existing courtroom F on the second floor of the, basically what is the addition to the historic courthouse across the street. This will allow for the judge that was added to our district last year to have their own courtroom. And I believe there was a cost estimate for this one in that report as well.
Yes, that's on page 239 of the packet / page 2 of the study, item 2.5 cost. And we're looking roughly at $500,000 for.
Yep.
Member Hanover Friedman.
Is I remember that at one point there were two different versions or two different proposals. Has this all been combined into one? So that cost estimate is just a range for this one proposal?
For this one option, yes. Yeah, we had looked at a different option on the first floor, but that just, it was not feasible. And so then we went back to the one on the second level. Okay. So it's, yeah, the range is for just this one on the second level.
And what is the variable? It's about over $100,000.
I think it was, yeah, about $100 to 150.
But I mean, the range here from 420 to 525, like what would make it near the lower end or the higher end?
I think that it really depends on when the project goes out for bid and is in construction. So if it were something that we'd started, I don't know, maybe this year or started quickly, then we could be on that low end. If we waited another year, then we very well could be on that higher end.
So I kind of piggybacking off of that, when you say in your cost summary here, the cost opinion takes a conservative cost approach, that conservative in your terms means we're looking at it as an expensive project, and we would hope that it would potentially be less expensive?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, conservative, I was trying to maybe estimate a little higher, just so that we weren't surprised.
No, thank you. I just wanted to clarify how that was set up. Other questions, discussion here? Member Furtado?
I did notice that the furnishings came in at 0, so we have furnishings that exist that we would just reconfigure. That seems,
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Carla, so the finishes is probably a big part of it because we have to build a whole new bench for the judge and for the witness. So that will be like part of the actual courtroom. And then the furnishings would be like tables for the prosecution and the defense, and then like some spectator chairs. So I do think we would have those. So just while everyone's reading, for a little bit of context, the next item on the agenda is also a courthouse project. And this handout that I gave you is all of the upcoming CARF projects for the courthouse, just so that you have a full picture of kind of what we're looking at in the near future for courthouse needs. It hasn't, I think with everything going on with Bennett, the courthouse hasn't been at the top of everyone's mind for facilities projects. And as you can see, that's about to change. So just wanted to have that information in front of you.
Right, so this sheet with the blue lines, this is all of the courthouse projects that are on the docket, so to speak. So that's 350,000, not looking at the courtroom feasibility report estimated cost. Any other questions, comments for Carla or in general on the project? Member Hanauer Friedman.
This is more internal, I guess. If we were to add this to fiscal year '26, is there anything on the list of projects there that could then be pushed back? So that
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a conversation of priority, and I would absolutely say if the priority is for the courtroom, then I think the wallpaper and painting of the 9 courtrooms and carpet in the 8 courtrooms, you know, we would use that money instead and defer those things. They've already been deferred a couple of times, but again, it's a question of priorities. So.
And I guess for the judge, I assume this would be a priority, but if you have anything to add to that, I guess.
The wallpaper and the carpet and all that, it's been there for 25 years. It's looking bad. When you step up against the wall, you get stuff on your clothing, so it's more litigants and lawyers who don't like it. I know a lot of the judges want to have those things fixed, but I think the consensus, and we had a judicial meeting today, was this is the #1 priority. And so if those things have to be delayed, so be it. So.
I don't have a stake in what the priorities are. I would just ask that, like, the understanding is it's not a guarantee that we can do the wallpaper then next year, right? Like, we don't have a $500,000 project planned for the courthouse next year that we could continue like swapping and swapping and swapping. So it would be, we're bumping the wallpaper and whatnot, and we don't have exactly the year that we would be putting that back on the schedule yet. So just as long as we're on that same page.
Member Furtado.
Yeah, because you don't want to delay tuck pointing. That's you delay tuck pointing, and that $500,000 becomes a multi-million-dollar problem that you have. So and I'm also guessing elevators are usually not something you can bump. So
And the fire panel, honestly, they're asking us to do that this year, and I'm trying to push it out till next year. So the things that we already have for next year are essential, necessary items. So.
Yeah, I mean, as you keep looking down, it's like, oh, well, once we make it to FY30, we have more carpet replacement. Maybe we could get to the original carpet replacement then. But Member Hanauer Friedman.
For Carla, what is the timeline on this? How long would this project take?
I think I had some numbers in here that if once we were approved, it would probably take about 8-9 months to design and then get ready to go out for bid. That's with our approval process.
But the actual construction,
The construct, well, and that's the other thing, that one really depends too, if the contractor needs to work like third shift or, needs to have quiet hours between 9 and 3 or whatever. It's gonna depend a lot on the court schedule.
I think the reality of this one is, it's unlikely that this would get completed this year because there's so much scheduling that has to be done, right? Because jury trials are scheduled out months in advance, and this will technically displace 2 judges during the construction scenario. So, it's something that we could be, and also we wouldn't want to start construction until we had all the materials because we don't want to tear things apart and then be waiting on something because it's not here. So I feel like this, no matter how efficient we are, it's going to be a long project because we're trying to do it in a building that is actively being used all day, every day. So.
And I'm guessing in the middle of a trial, you can't have like jackhammers in the room next to you. I could be wrong, but I don't think that would work.
No, in fact, when we did the ADA improvements, like 8 years ago, I think it was, I think the guys were in there sanding the walls. We had taken down the wallpaper, pulled up all the carpet. They were in there sanding the walls. There was a trial next door, and they had to stop during that trial and then come back, and that's just sanding the walls. So yes, that's why we have a little bit of experience working in the building. So we're like, we're gonna have to maybe work weekends, and so it's probably gonna come in a little bit of a premium as well. So.
Any other discussion on this one?
I would just ask, is there direction from the committee? Like, do you want to continue moving forward on this? Do you want to wait?
Member Furtado.
Can we hear what's up with the chillers before we answer that question?
Our next expert, and maybe Carla could hang around for just a few minutes. Yes.
All right, so we will table that for just 1 minute and move on to the courthouse chiller project. We have Jim Gleason from GHR Engineers. If you'll hit that button on the microphone before you get started and turn it green, thank you.
How's that? Does that work? Okay. So what we were asked to do was look at replacing the chillers that are on the courthouse roof. Just for those who don't know, a chiller is a big machine that makes chilled water. Think of a residential air conditioner on steroids that produces cold water, chilled water. The chillers that are up there there's 2 of them. They've been there for 25 years. Their service life is 20 years. So I guess kind of like the wallpaper, they're kind of showing their age. They are starting to fail. We've had compressor replacements and various and sundry things going out on them, which is what you would expect of equipment of this age. The interesting part about this, well, there's 2 or 3 of them actually. One is the projected expansion of the courthouse itself, which of course would increase the cooling load, which would increase the cooling load beyond the capability of what's sitting up there now. So what we did was estimate what's the new load going to be based on some projected increase in area, add it to the existing loads, come up with a couple of chiller sizes, 2 chillers, and then start working from there. The chillers, of course, the new chillers, being more capacity, would be larger, just as a normal course of events. As it turns out, they're also larger because the energy codes have driven efficiency requirements, which inevitably makes these things bigger. So they just plain won't fit where the existing chillers are. So some structural work is required to accommodate those. It's a phasing issue that we have to contend with. You don't really want to take the building down completely. And what we've envisioned is trying to do this work in one of the shoulder seasons, either the spring or the fall, when we can get by on one machine. So the plan would be, just in general, take a machine down, put a new one up there, then take the other old machine out and put a new one up there. So in general, that's what the scope is. By and large, we're in pretty good shape. There's some spacing requirements that we probably ought to talk about a little bit. So there is some screening up there in the form of the mansard roof on the newer building, the 2000 era building, that kind of makes it look like the old courthouse. Some of that stuff is going to have to be removed to give these chillers, remember I told you they're bigger, to give them adequate space to breathe. You know, at the end of the day, what they're doing is taking all the heat from the building and pumping it out into the atmosphere, and they need space to make that happen properly. So we would have to take some of that mansard down. The plan right now is, and we haven't worked this out to the last degree, is to put a vision screen on the south, which would act both as a vision screen and somewhat as an acoustic screen to prevent noise radiating to the neighbors. We've envisioned chillers that have sound deadening wraps on the compressors and extension tubes on the condenser fans, all in an effort to keep the noise down, the airborne noise to the neighbors. We keep the chillers roughly in the same location. As it turns out, that roof has that portion of the roof is concrete. It was built that way to soak up sound and vibration for the benefit of the people underneath. So the chiller locations that we've anticipated in this study are not over courtrooms. You know, we certainly don't want to get into business of doing that. And they will continue to take advantage of the concrete roof structure that's up there now. I'll take questions. You should have two things. There's a purpose statement that we did that kind of summarizes some of the things I just said. And there's an estimate that is pretty detailed. We pretty much had to go through that exercise just to make sure we didn't forget anything.
So the reason this is in front of you is because there is a significant cost difference between just a, pound for pound replacement right now. It was estimated at 600,000. That's a little low still. It's still probably going to be more like $750 to $1 million just to replace them as is. This is, I think, an old estimate that's been carried over year. But to do the replacement to accommodate a potential courthouse expansion is going to be $2 million. So, it's a longevity question, right? Like, the courthouse is full. There's no space in the courthouse. We're turning closets into offices. We're doubling people up. So I like to believe that we're going to figure out our revenue issues in the near future. And if that happens, then the space issues at the courthouse are going to become really pressing. And it's going to be our next major facilities issue to tackle. So the chiller lifespan is 20 years. So I guess it's just, I'm kind of looking for some feedback of, do we want to invest the money now and know that if we get to the point of doing the expansion, we've already gotten a very expensive, critical piece taken care of? Or do we want to go with the less expensive option and just replace exactly what we have with an updated model?
Yes, Member Hannah Friedman.
So in the scenario where an expansion project took place, say in 5 to 10 years, and say we upgraded to the larger, more expensive kind, would there be any sort of problem? Like, would those need to be taken out anyways to do major construction? I mean, it's hard to say what would be going on, but if the roof had to be changed in some way.
No, they would not. They're tucked away on the west portion of the roof, well away from construction, which is what I understand would be on the east end of that structure.
We'd also just tell them they have to design construction that doesn't touch our very fancy chillers.
I do want to make a point, because I think replacing the existing chillers with new chillers of the exact same capacity isn't quite as easy as you might think because they're going to be bigger. So what's up there right now are curbs sitting on this concrete roof that are sized for equipment that was made in 2025. If we say, okay, we're going to use the same tonnage that's up there, those curbs have to be made larger, and it's just, and quite honestly, those chillers are kind of squeezed together. They're too close to each other to really function properly. So, you know, they're kind of interfering with each other because of this inability to breathe that I was talking about.
Right, this is why I'm increasing this CARF cost from 600 to closer to like $1 million, even if we didn't do chillers that were prepared to accommodate a courthouse expansion.
Member Weeks.
We made a point earlier before the meeting as well that currently the two chillers are not redundant. So if we lose one, the way that they are sized, then our courtroom or our courthouse does not perform well.
You won't be able to carry the load on a design day with just one machine.
And with a higher tonnage or a higher capacity machine, then we would have some method of some form of redundancy, at least maybe until an expansion was done.
Member Furtado.
Is where the chillers are currently located, would they still be functional with an expanded building? Is the location of them, like, they'd be able to service a bigger footprint?
Yes. So the heart of the chill water system is actually the system pumps, which are down in the basement, almost directly below you there. Those pumps take the chill water that these chillers make on the roof and pump it around the building. So when you do an addition, you're gonna have to go down there and make whatever modifications are necessary to distribute chilled water to whatever new systems there are in the addition. Did I answer your question?
We had just talked about if we divide the courthouse in half, that might be an evening and weekend kind of job. Would this similarly need to be a job that we do at certain times, or is it not so loud that we could get away with it during courthouse hours?
Okay, so I have estimated, and this is one of the things that's making the estimate high, estimated bringing a crane in. This is a big crane. These machines weigh 18,000 pounds. They're 38 feet long. They're big. I have estimated that work being done on weekends because we're going to have to shut the street off to make that happen. Now, in terms of what's happening inside the building, you know, when we don't have the crane and we're not lifting some heavy object over the general public's, you know, right away, things can continue on inside the building normally. I do have the need to run some conduits, electrical feeder from the basement up to the chillers. It's in a publicly accessible area, so it wouldn't affect anything that's going on in the courtrooms.
Sorry, I have a couple more questions. You had mentioned doing it like in the shoulder seasons, but as we know, like this last fall, I mean, I think there were days we almost hit 100 in like October, and you were saying it's not redundant. So how does that, do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the length of time, the actual on-the-ground construction time where the one chiller would be down, do you think?
You know, I did a thumbnail calculation, total process of 10 weeks. Frankly, a lot of this is going to, a lot of the scheduled details would depend on the actual delivery period, or the lead time, rather, of the chillers themselves. They're currently 16 weeks. I don't want to do this work in the wintertime because there is roof work involved, and it's tough to effectively do roof work in this kind of weather.
Oh, yeah.
Very little cooling load, but we got problems with the roof.
Yeah. My dad, one of the things he did, he was a roofer, so yes, he wasn't going out no roof on this kind of weather. Just two last questions. I see that chillers were moved up from 2029, is that just because we're worried they're not going to make it? And then secondly, there's two I'm sorry, I don't say that word well, on here. Would both of those be impacted by this project, or just the annex roof replace and that one?
I think just the annexed roof would be where we would need to be doing repairs, which is the one that's up for this year. So that's part of the decision-making is we don't want to do the roof and then do the chillers.
There's like two, oh, I see. So
Because
one's-
one is
I
the
got you.
original courthouse and one is the annex, and they're on different life cycles, so. And in terms of moving it up, yes, when we have to replace a compressor, it's $60,000. And there's a lot of maintenance, labor, and time being spent on keeping these things running. And again, the concern that Daniel brought up is if one were to go down and we could not get it back up during warmer weather, I think we would have to close the courthouse because it wouldn't be, like, we couldn't have people in it.
Member Wilson.
What's the current life expectancy of the existing chillers?
20 years, and they're 25 years old. County classic.
Member Wicks.
Like my shoes. Just a comment on redundancy.
Sorry.
So the redundancy is on a design day. How many design days do we actually have in a year?
Oh, Jim, your microphone turned off.
Yeah, but it's not like it's 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, maybe a month, right? At the most.
Design days,
Yeah.
I doubt that you even have a month. A
Yeah,
design day is 95 degrees dry bulb, 75 degrees wet bulb, the sun beating down at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on July 27th. So those conditions mercifully don't happen that often. They do happen, though.
Oh,
and
of course
do
they
happen
happen,
at
but-
unexpected times.
And you can have the above and beyond design days, I'm sure they happen too, but, so redundancy is only for that particular design day. There's other capacity requirements on non-design days, right?
On non-design days, obviously, as the load goes
Yeah,
down.
sure.
However, if you just have one chiller, I think that was the point. If you just have one and you get that design day rolling along, you're in trouble.
I would also just add to me, the concern is that they're the same age. So if we have a long-term problem with one of them that we're trying to get back up, and now we're relying on another one that is just as old, our luck is that doesn't work out well for us, so.
Member Wicks.
We also have Chris Smith here. Do you want to weigh in on these chillers' status currently? I know I have replaced one of those compressors maybe 7 years ago, and
Right.
it's not a quick or fun ordeal, and I bet 60,000 might not be conservative either. But yeah,
They're not.
what's your experience with the building when a chiller goes down, or with
It doesn't take long to lose the building. Not when we lose a,
depending on
whole chiller.
what temperatures outside, I guess.
correct. 90-degree plus days, it takes a while. Like, we're fighting to get the other chiller back up, at least one compressor on the other chiller, to get it up and get that chilled water where we need it. And I think there's only one, I believe there's only one original compressor up there, I believe. All the other ones have been changed.
How many have been changed in the last, I guess, 5 or 10 years?
Probably 3 of them, the other 3.
And didn't we do
Yeah.
one like last year? Didn't we do one really recently?
I think it might have been 2 years ago. There's been, and that was probably in that 50 to 60K mark for replacement. Yep.
Okay. I haven't asked a question yet, so I'm going to ask my question. So, and when we're talking about like the compressors and the need for changing and chillers going down, this is referring to our 25-year-old chillers or chillers with lifespan of 20 years. So if we're looking at, say we did do the pound for pound replacement, like that's not going to quite be, but just to simplify things, are we thinking that they'll go down frequently, or because they'll be newer machines, would that not be as much of an issue?
Well, I mean, newer machines are going to have a warranty. That's not to say they won't break down, but it's no headache on our part other than, hey, you got to send somebody out, it's down.
How long is a warranty typically on a machine like that?
As long as you want to pay for it, but typically they're 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, the concern wouldn't be that the new ones would go down. It's the question of planning ahead for the expansion.
Right. Oh, yeah. And that's
So-
why I'm like, but if I'm thinking how long out realistically would a courthouse construction project take to even begin? Like, I'm trying to do the math in my head of like, which one makes more sense? That's why I was asking that one. Member Furtado, did you have a question?
I still want to just make sure I understand how all these components work together. So for 2026, what's currently on there is the annex roof, replace existing ballasted roof on addition with glued EPDM white membrane roof. I'm assuming that is totally separate from this project. Would we want to do both of those at the same time? Are they in any way contingent upon one another?
2 different levels.
Okay, so no.
Roofs are 2 different levels. The glued EPDM is the higher level, and the other's the rock ballasted roof.
And
where
can
the
you,
chillers are at.
and can you speak to the urgency of the membrane roof project? Like, so for example, if we decided to do this full-on chiller project, that's the entirety of what we were going to spend on the courthouse in 2026. So I'm wanting, I guess, to understand the priority of these other 2026 projects. So if we were like, we're all in on the chillers, but that would then mean the white membrane roof would have to get pushed. Is that a problem?
The white membrane roof get
Yeah.
pushed? I don't think that's a problem.
What about the update HVAC digital controls?
So
We're
we're
doing that.
doing that one
Right now?
through ARPA.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It says, oh, no, it just says,
That's the one with the big kickback on it.
right,
Yeah.
okay. And then the other two we've already discussed are the paint and the carpet.
Can I ask a question at some? I just have
Yeah,
one.
sure.
Sorry. Hi, way over here. If we did just a pound for pound replacement, I understand they'd need to be spread out more from where they are right now so they don't interfere with each other. But the same size, that's cheaper than doing spread them out bigger size to prepare for an expansion later on, correct? Okay, so then what if in the expansion,
I'm not sure that's.
not true? So even,
If
so-
we really want to examine that, I think we ought to actually put a pencil to paper and see, okay, what does it mean to put the same size chiller up there? Because they won't fit
okay.
on the existing curbs that are there now, accommodating the existing curbs.
Okay, so I guess what's being presented from somebody who's just been listening was that the choice of replace what's there now or plan for future expansion, and you're saying no matter what, we need to do a lot of work up there.
You're going to have to do something
Okay.
beyond just take the old one off and put a new one down.
Yeah, so, but if you're replacing them with the same size ones spread out differently, and there's more work to spread them out, but the same size, or ones that have a bigger capacity, that's a different price as well, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so if they were replaced with the same size now, and then in the future, whenever the money would come available to expand, would there be anything that would prevent the system we have now from tying in another chiller on top of the expansion?
Question is go to 3 chillers instead of 2?
Yeah, go to 3 instead of 2. And then there'd be one then that's a different age than the 2 that would go in at the same time.
So again, we could examine that. My initial thought is we're going to have a heck of a time finding a home for it in that area of the roof that was specifically designed to accommodate
Well, I guess what I'm saying, I'm asking if it's even possible, because this is not my area of expertise. I'm saying if there's an expansion outward, any plan that we've kicked around that's not a plan at all, that's just ideas at this point, for courthouse expansion is to bump out to the east. And so there'd be a whole new area of roof on which another chiller could be placed. Would that be possible with the system as it is, to have another chiller added? I'm just asking about possibilities.
It'd be possible, but not desirable, because if you put a single chiller there, then you don't have any redundancy at all. I think what you're saying or asking me is, let's put an addition on there and let's just have its own chiller and we won't even worry about.
Yeah, that was my question.
this.
It's even possible.
Okay, is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay. So it's undesirable because of the lack of backup.
Okay, and
It
there's
also
no way to tie
prevents
all
you from
three together.
optimizing. I mean, there's efficiency reasons for having one chiller plant, but just in general, I would really speak against having one machine
Okay,
handle
and there's
that.
no way to tie the three together at a later date. It would either just be two now, one's really, or, two now that are bigger than we're used to plan for an expansion. Or if there is an expansion and we have two the same size now, they'd never be able to work with another one added with an expansion.
I'd never say never, because you've asked me a question that I haven't really examined, but
Okay.
my gut feeling is it's going to cost a ton of money and it probably involve a lot of piping back and forth
Okay.
through the occupied part of the building, as opposed to the lower level, which is the basement kind of unoccupied.
Thank you. That's the answer that I needed. Thank you.
Would it cost more than replacing chillers at that point further down the road? Okay, Member Aris, I'm sorry.
So this might be more of an internal question and maybe more of interest of the finance committee, but is there anything that the county has insurance-wise that would be able to cover any of these costs? Nothing? Okay. That answers.
Member Hanauer Friedman.
So going back to the fiscal year 26 list here, I just want to make sure I understand this. So the 600,000 that's listed for the chillers. So if we did this 2,102,191, that 600 is already part of that, right?
Yeah, that 600,000, I think, has been on the CARF plan for a while, and it's just not
Accurate.
It's not kept up with costs. So that 600, yes, would go into the 2 million that we're talking about. But the reason I wanted to talk about it with you is because obviously there's a pretty big difference between 600 and 2 million. So
Right. So hypothetically, if we said, okay, we're going to add the courtroom division project here, but we're going to take out the wallpaper, paint, and carpet, and we're going to do the 2 million chillers, then we're adding about 1 point.
I would think also too, logistically at that point, we would bump the annex roof to next year.
And the annex roof.
Because I just don't see that getting done in this fiscal year if we do the chiller project
Okay.
to the point that we're paying the whole.
So, okay, so then we're bumping over $1 million. Okay.
Well, 400.
Well, plus the 500 for the wallpaper and the 250 for the carpet.
I mean, I don't know that we can keep that on the schedule for like the next year, because this is also just the courthouse. This is not the entire CARF plan. I whittled this down to just courthouse tasks. So there are other things already on CARF that are more structural based. I mean, we can move it, but I think the assumption would be it's probably not going to happen next year, and it's probably going to get bumped again and again and again.
Well, if the whole thing is going to be remodeled, it could be bumped to then.
Yeah.
Member Furtado.
I mean, this might go without saying, but this is a really hard decision.
That's why I'm
because-
bugging you all.
Because there's no, I mean, all I hear from everybody at the courthouse is that they need more room and that we have to do something about it. And that like we can't bring in more public defenders, we can't do anything because you can't put a paperclip over there. So the assumption is at some point we're going to have to expand. The other piece of it is we don't have any money. But it also seems incredibly foolish to put $1 million project in that we might have to replace with a $2 million project, or who knows, in 5 years it might be $2.5 million project down the road. We might as well just burn that $1 million in a fire, right? Like, you don't put $1 million in if you think in 5 years you're going to replace, you don't put $1 million project with a 20-year lifespan in if you think in 5 years you're going to replace it with a $2 million project with a 20-year lifespan. That's, a future board will just cuss us out. So
It would also, just to add to what you're saying, if we did a courthouse thing, we're going to bond it, right? So you're going to drive up the cost of the bonding with things like this right off the bat. So before we even pour the foundation for the extension, you're already spending millions on infrastructure that is now being replaced halfway through or even earlier in its normal life cycle. So it is not an easy decision. And I don't necessarily know that we need a decision tonight, but this is just not something for us to deal with on our own. We wanted you to understand all the things that we're thinking about. The courthouse just has a lot coming up. And, it all has really long-ranging implications.
Just realistically, though, do we really think like 5 years out, we're going to be looking at an expansion? Like, are we in shape where...
I think that realistically, the board in 5 years would appreciate if this board acted as though the spacing needs are going to become so severe, something will have to be figured out in 5 years.
But also, is this board going to suffer because of the 2 million versus the 1 million yeah, that's where I'm getting stuck.
I can say that, like, if you can tell me how, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important it is to you for us to really figure out how to do the $2 million version, I can come back next month with a different configuration of what I think we could move things around. But I don't want to do all of that work if your response is going to be, that's ridiculous, Michelle, do the lower cost one and move on. Like,
Member Furtado?
since we do have the judge here, maybe would you want to speak about how long do you think with this footprint can you all, like,
But I mean,
getting that we have no money, and
as
that's
he
the
walks
reality.
up,
Yeah.
can I say though too, like, even, yes, we can think about, oh, in 5 years we can expand so that we can have all these new public defenders and all these new people, but how are we going to pay for all the new people? Like,
just
that's
to
part
clarify,
of it too.
I'm not talking about new people. I'm talking about existing
Yeah.
people. We have lawyers in cubicles with no ceilings. Like, we don't need more staff. We need space for the current staff. So.
Right, well, it's an awkward position you're in. You're the money people. It sounds like these chillers are important, and I understand that, and I hope that you don't think, oh, we're either going to do the courtroom renovation or the chillers. I hope it's not pitting us against each other. I would hope that you guys would look at not just the ideas you have for 2026 for the courthouse. I would hope that you would expand it and look at whatever you may have on lists for other facilities issues around all of your campuses, because there may be some other things that you want to earmark money for that could wait. So don't just limit yourself to this. I would also note that, I would really ask that you consider the possibility of trying to use some quarter-cent sales tax, try to use some unused ARPA money. There is money out there. We were asked in a meeting recently, well, can the court cut its budget to pay for this? Well, no. Every year we need a budget amendment. You don't give us enough. So we're willing to work with you. But the fact of the matter is, we've had a second judge for 2 years now. And Ms. Furtado, you and Ms. Hanson, my court administrator, and I, we met over 2 years ago when you were finance chair, to say this is coming. We can wait for a while, but it's going to be a big issue. And the judges have come up with a way to have 2 judges share a courtroom. It is a miserable solution. Every judge complains. One of the judges who has been sharing a courtroom just resigned. Not saying it's because of that, but she resigned. lawyers, litigants, court reporters, clerks, judges. It's not as simple as to say, oh, just schedule better. It's very difficult. People are going to the wrong courtrooms. People are late to court. People are missing things. Frankly, my judges don't want this to continue. And when I came to the board 6-8 months ago and you all said, you know, we originally, the public defender was to come over here, and that didn't happen because we were going to rebuild a courtroom down there. So then the idea was maybe build an addition, which you're talking about now possibly for the future. And you guys told me, oh, 5-6 years, millions of dollars. The judges can't wait that long. The citizens of our community cannot wait that long. That's why the judges came up with the solution, cut a courtroom in half. Now, I respect Ms. Smalley, and I don't know where she's getting her numbers from, but everybody I've talked to, and I've said it's $500,000, and they say, to build a wall? You're kidding me. I mean, it's a huge amount of money, and I don't know why it's so high, but I'm not an expert. It's outside my field or whatever. But the judges came up with this idea. It's not an ideal solution. One of the courtrooms is going to be very tight, and it's going to be awkward, but it's the best solution we could come up with. I think we could handle it for another year and a half. But frankly, the judges and all the citizens and everybody who works in the courthouse who I talk to, they hate the way we're doing it now. And we would love to have this done sooner than later and ask you to think creatively about the finances. I understand you guys are in a financial situation. I get it. But think outside the box with ARPA and, of course, in sales tax, whatever else there might be out there to help us out.
That was actually not my question. My question was, assuming that we were just dividing the courthouse, that like the courtroom, that was not my question. The larger footprint of the court, the larger expansion, not the dividing, assuming that we were going to go ahead with that. The larger issue of space and do you think we could wait beyond 5 years to do an addition? Do you see what I'm saying? That was what my question was. It had nothing to do with splitting the room.
If you do not split the courtroom, we will not wait 5 years for the expansion. But will the system fall apart?
Yeah.
No. The courts will have enough space, just barely, if we split the courtroom. I know the public defender needs space. They took some from our jury assembly room. I know the circuit clerk wants space. I know other departments need space. You better ask them, can they wait 5 years? We could wait 5 years if you split the courtroom.
Right.
But if you don't split the courtroom, we are not going to wait 5 years. We cannot.
All right. Well, I mean, I think, let me try to rephrase this one last time. Just imagine we've already said yes to splitting the courtroom, okay? Stop, that's not the question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We appreciate that.
And the question is not can you wait 5 years? I think 5 years would be optimistic for a larger expansion. What I'm saying is, could you wait 10, 15, 20 years for that expansion? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, should we as a board be thinking, because we're thinking about, do we want to do these chillers that have a 20-year lifespan? If we're not going to do the big expansion of the court to year 15, maybe it's not as big a deal as if we no, we got to do it sooner. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm not talking about that courtroom at all.
I do. So if you split the courtroom, so then the court system has enough space for now. I don't see us growing exponentially in the next 5 or 10 years. So from the court's perspective, although it's tight, I think we could probably be adequate. I don't see us adding another judge in the next 5 or 10 years. But I think the better question would be for the other departments who may be bursting at the seams right now beyond our courtroom situation.
Yeah, I would just add that in terms of number of personnel, the courts have the least amount of personnel. We're talking about the circuit clerk, the state's attorney, the public defender, probation. Those are the ones where we're talking 2-3 dozen people, and they are all consistently maxed out on space.
Thank you.
I guess, speaking for myself, I'd want to see what would be done to shift to do the larger chillers and how we could make that work while still having a budget to split the courtrooms. I don't know if that is the direction from other folks on the board, if anybody has other thoughts on what they'd like to see perhaps from Michelle, Member Aris?
I guess a good takeaway would be, like the judge mentioned, can we find other things in other facilities departments that might be able to not necessarily be sacrificed, but limited?
I mean, that's like saying, you know, which child is your favorite? So, which I've learned very quickly in this position, very,
It's
very
all of
quickly.
them,
That's
right.
what every single question is. Who do you like more? How about this? Let me go back to the maintenance team with the entire CARF and talk through what could be shifted around with the idea of finding money for the $2 million chiller project and the courtroom split without significantly, I'm not going to say not at all, but without significantly increasing the existing CARF budgets for this year and next year.
Right, because I know that Judge Rosenbaum had mentioned ARPA funding, but that all is accounted for and has to be spent by the end of this year. So these projects are not really good candidates for ARPA spending. Steve?
Kind of to address your question, Dan. When I first was elected to the county board, the board was coming off making the decision not to replace the roof at the old nursing home. That was close to 10 years ago. The result is now we have a space that is not usable and that we're going to spend over $1 million just to eliminate when, if adequate maintenance and oversight of what our facility needs had been performed at that time, we wouldn't be looking at this situation. So you delay and defer maintenance at a long-term cost that could be exponentially higher. That's my opinion.
Revenge there not?
Have we thought about having our grant coordinator look into possible funding for anything? I know there are a lot of legal-related funding. I know it's usually law enforcement, but
I have yet to see grant funding for capital projects. I mean, if anyone has ever seen that, please send it our way. I think everyone would want, every entity in the country would want funding for capital projects because that just doesn't seem to be something that grantors are interested in investing in.
well, more like weatherization and efficiency and
Well, that stuff usually comes with hefty rebates. So those are kind of like, you know, spend a dollar, get two back almost. Those are worth it. Those are the ones that we can easily do on our own. Yeah.
Sherlock?
Rather than call the judge forward to talk about the grant, there's a very small, like is it 50,000, Your Honor? There's a $50,000 grant that is available, I think, only through June of this year for equipment, so we could even purchase audiovisual equipment, and it could be reimbursed up to $50,000 from the state, and then we'd have it so that if the courtroom was split, the separate courtroom would have its own AV equipment for the various reasons that they need that.
That sounds great. All right, Member Furtado.
And also, I just want to remind everybody to keep in mind that with the quarter-cent public safety sales tax, we already last year took $1.8 million of that to prop up public safety-related CARF projects. And this year, in 2026, we took $2 million from that fund to just prop up the budget. So whereas in the past, maybe that fund had the flexibility to say, hey, do you want to take $1 million, do you know what I'm saying, and just put it towards this long-term planning, which is why you build up those funds. We have been using it to prop up basic operations and not general maintenance, but to allow our capital asset replacement fund not to get so out of whack with the calendar as it had been, you know, since the mid-90s until now. So the capacity, I'm not saying there's no capacity in that fund. Maybe there's a little bit, but not much because we spent it.
It's Member Wilson.
Thank you. I think what I'm not seeing is what all the other children are desiring and the prioritization of and how we choose top priorities. It's hard to make that decision here without seeing that. However, I do believe that probably the most urgent or emergent thing that we should solve is the splitting of the courtroom. I see that as a higher priority, in my opinion. And the sooner we get that done, I think the better. As far as like wallpaper, painting 9 courtrooms, or replacing carpet in 8 courtrooms, does that have to happen all in 1 year, or can it be split out over the years? Do you have to do all 8 courtrooms carpet in 1 year, or can you do incremental out? The same with the painting of the courtrooms.
I think there's a scale cost efficiency by doing like 8 courtrooms at once. I think that was the reason they're put together in these amounts.
But if I only had $100,000 or $50,000, I wanted to use it, painting 1 or 2 rooms is better than painting no rooms.
Well, I would just say then just wait till the next, save your 150 in CARF and do 6 courtrooms the next year with another 150.
It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
But going back, I would like to see the splitting of the courtroom, though. As a child that I may choose over other children.
Did anybody have any other direction? Member Hanover Friedman.
I have a logistical question. If and when we get to the big renovation of the courthouse, where does court happen during construction?
Well,
What do we
so
do?
the expansion wouldn't really actually impact the courthouse because it's all going to be taking over the parking lot to the east. So it would be walled off until we were ready to actually open it up for the most part.
But they'd have to connect it at some point, right? So
At some point.
Period of time.
okay. And it wouldn't involve any renovation of the existing space.
I'm sure we would have some renovations because we'd be moving people around. So we would need to modify spaces as they're vacated for the next thing. And we also just have structural issues that we need to deal with throughout the entire courthouse that we'd want to address.
Okay.
It would be a very piece by piece project.
All right. If there's no further direction on that, then I think we'll look to see how we can appease all of our children next time. Moving back, though, to the feasibility report, I know that there were some folks who said they wanted to hear about the chillers before we talked about direction on the courtroom splitting feasibility. Is there further comment to go back to on that? Or it looks like, I mean, we've received direction from the judge, and others in the room have spoken to the desire to move forward with seeing how we could shift things to make this all work.
So I'll be back next month with a couple of ways, maybe a couple of options of how could we do both without sacrificing a lot and not increasing this year, next year's CARF budget significantly. And we can go from there. Does that work? All right, Judge, we have a date for next month.
All right.
Can I ask one more quick question?
Yes, finish there.
Is updating the HVAC digital controls going to be contingent on us making a decision on the size of the chillers, or is
That's
that,
already happening.
That's
We're-
already-
we're in
yeah.
progress with that right now.
is that going to affect, I mean, are we gonna have to replace that like next year if we decide to go with new chillers or anything, or is that just, it'll expand?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that segues nicely into the ARPA spending update, since that is the green energy project with the estimated rebates, correct?
Yes, it is. So that project is in progress now. You told me to spend the money. I spent the money. The remaining money that we have unallocated and the rebate money I'm holding to put towards the nursing home demolition. And I consider everything to be spent at this point. So
Now, Was that the rebate money that we were looking at putting towards solar, or that's separate? Okay. Any other questions on the ARPA spending? I like that we're considering it all spent. That's reassuring with, the date being the end of this year.
This is just facilities ARPA, not ARPA total.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just that extra money from the jail expansion.
I was going to say 163, boy, we spent a lot of money in the last month.
No.
I mean, if you give me more, I can spend it, so.
Hey, everyone who has money that they haven't spent out there in TV land, we could spend it. So you best be spending your money because we could spend it and we will take it back. TV land.
Well, what is our drop dead date for spend it or we get it back?
I think we are going to be addressing that at the February meetings, so we can save that for February cow/full board rather than facilities.
Gotcha.
Or you can chat with Ellie after the meeting here. Any other ARPA questions, comments? Otherwise, moving on, I have no other business. I have no presiding officer's report. Our next meeting is March 3rd, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. This room's not affected by elections, right? We would still be in here? Okay. Right. Which we don't, so. Item to be placed on the consent agenda is number 6A, and we are adjourned at, show me my clock, 7:46 p.m. Thank you.